Welcome, everybody, to Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Grueling True Sports Network. I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I would like to welcome in my co-host, Steve Risley. And if I don't say this, Steve is in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and if I don't say it, then he's going to chew me out later. But how you doing, Steve?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Rough night, but there's opportunity there. So you got to look at the glasses half full, not half empty. Somehow.
Okay. Normally Collin Hartman's with us, but Collin has to get up at 4:30 in the morning for work or something. So
Collin's on assignment. He's officially on assignment.
He's on assignment. We have infiltrated ISIS. Collin will report back on the next Indiana Basketball Weekly show. He is now a sniper Navy SEAL, so make sure you stay updated with that. All right, tonight, the Duke Blue Devils beat the Indiana Hoosiers 90-69. Duke had a small 53-29 lead at the half. Indiana mounted a rally and outscored them 40-37 in the second half. The sad thing is, it's kind of it's not what I expected. That's the thing, because when I watched Duke, and Duke turns the ball over 14 times, Indiana actually out-rebounded Duke. That had to be all in the second half. But I don't even think Duke played that well. And Indiana got manhandled by them. And what it looked like to me is, I'm not going to overread one thing, and that is this is the first time the Hoosiers have been in a situation like this. I mean, Arkansas doesn't have near the crowd or near the ability player-wise that Duke does. And I think Indiana got in this game, and I think they were ready to come out and play. And I think once the magnitude of the moment hit them and the speed and the athleticism of the other team, I think it's one of those games where you come out and just things go wrong from the start, and before you know it, the game's over. And that's what it looked like to me. The only problem is the Big Ten looks like a really good conference with 5 or 6 really good teams this year. So this team better figure this out really quick. And I don't want to be, old Debbie Downer here. But if they don't figure this out quick, this is not going to be the year that we expect, Steve.
Yeah, I made a list of things here. First off, this is just right now not a very fundamentally sound basketball team, which I kind of throw that back on Archie Miller. I mean, I would have thought that by now, he's had these guys all summer long for the most part, and they're just not a really fundamentally sound team. They make a lot of fundamental mistakes. And you can tell me that they're all freshmen and young, but so is Duke. And you're right, Duke didn't play exceptionally well, but they didn't need to tonight.
They got so many athletes they don't need to unless they play.
Exactly.
Unless they're playing a Gonzaga. If they're not playing one of the top 10 teams in the country, their athleticism will dominate every other
carries them alone, exactly. I guess what concerns me more is that I have yet to see this team really get jacked up and fired up to go out and play basketball. And I don't know if that's Archie Miller's personality coming through or what. And I'm certainly not going to get on Archie Miller right now. I'm just saying, I'm just looking at trends and what I'm seeing based on what I know about the game of college basketball, what I know about Indiana basketball. And that's a different era. I get all that, but it's just an era that was a lot different than what IU's been through in a long time. They're not very fundamentally sound. They make really – tonight's the first time I saw them make a lot of dumb mistakes that really hurt them. But also, it goes back to the same thing as I'm not a big proponent of this, playing a bunch of patsy teams and all of a sudden coming in and playing the best team in the country.
No, this is like Duke's fourth game against a team that could be a top – I mean, really, they've played 3 games against top 10 teams.
Yeah, we didn't do that when I played. We played tough teams right from the get-go. I mean, we had a couple – we had like a Ball State.
Well, everybody's got a cupcake here and there. But you guys,
everybody's got a cupcake, but we had
if you guys were playing 12 games preseason-wise, you were probably playing 5 top 15 teams.
Right, and this program is not doing that. They haven't done it for a long time. I think they've been so concerned about winning and putting wins on the board that, and maybe that's the way the ranking system works and getting into the dance, and they've been bit by that before. I don't know, but they're not fundamentally sound. They're a bunch of freshmen. They need to understand right now, and this is a great learning opportunity for them, that the game is played at a much faster and higher and stronger pace than it was in high school. And they learned that lesson tonight.
Well, I think this, though. I think when you look at them, when they played Marquette's a good basketball team, but they played them at home.
A decent basketball team, yeah.
They're going to make the tournament probably. They'll be top three in the Big East. But my point is this. At home, they were comfortable. They played well. On the road so far, at Arkansas and at Duke, when they're out of their comfort zone, the thing I question here is still mental toughness. Because if you can execute when you're comfortable, but you can't when you're not, to me that's mental toughness, concentration, which are things that this team has lacked for years.
Yeah, they don't seem to be very mentally tough. They're playing very passive basketball right now. They're taking what the defense or what the opponent will give them. And generally when you're playing against a University of Texas at Arlington or a team like that or something, they're going to give you a lot more than what a Duke or a Marquette or even an Arkansas is going to give you. And I would say of those, Duke is the player. Marquette's a potential player, and Arkansas is just a good team that they played on the road. But they're not playing aggressive basketball. They didn't come out with a lot of passion, a lot of fire. We talked. I asked Yogi that question last night, and he didn't really. Wasn't really satisfied with his answer. I think the team needs a fire leader on the court. There was nobody seemed to be on the court that seemed to be pissed off about what was happening to him. That's what I took away from it. Nobody on the basketball floor was pissed off.
The thing
they were all just taking it and just going about trying to do their own thing.
And that's the thing I took from it was this. I thought that they attacked the basket. They attacked Duke, but they attacked them one-on-one. They didn't move the ball. Right. You didn't see him swing it from one side. You saw Juwan do it the one time early when he came back in. And that's the thing. If Juwan Morgan is going to be the impact player he needs to be on the court. And there can't be two fouls in the first 2 minutes at Duke.
Right, and that's the second or third time it's happened to him now.
Yeah, I mean, it happened
to be a
last
pattern
year.
For him now.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to control himself. He's got to understand that he's more valuable on the court than anywhere else. But to me, it just looked like this team went into an atmosphere they weren't used to. They freaked out, and everybody here pressed and tried to force things, and you can't play a basketball game like that.
Well, that's how they played the last couple of games, those individual one-on-one, trying to force it on themselves. And, again, I'm throwing us back to Coach Miller a little bit. I would have thought this team would have progressed, 5 games into this now, and he would have recognized the things that – and maybe he's trying to practice. Maybe they're just not responding. But at some point, somebody is going to have to get pissed off about the lack of development of this basketball team. Now, I don't think anything that they're doing is not fixable real quickly. I don't think it's a lost cause in any stretch of the imagination. We're not into the league yet. These are all play for show games, not meaningful games really in a sense. It's an ego thing to lose this game, certainly, but in terms of in the big picture, it's not going to kill you in the tournament. This game won't.
But it doesn't help you on Selection Sunday that you got.
It doesn't help you, right? Yeah, but it's still, they have plenty of time to redeem themselves and plenty of time to right the ship. So, this team needs to get a little more personality, a little more aggressive. They need to get a little more mad about things happening to them that they don't like to have happen and stop letting things happen to them so easily. They still are not playing good post defense. Of course, I don't know who's played good post defense on Zion Williamson. But Gonzaga did. Well, I don't even know if Gonzaga did, really. Remember that game. He ran all over them, too. But they're just not progressing at a level of which I would have hoped them see from the first game. They made some small steps, but they're taking steps backwards now, too, which concerns me just a little at this point in time. But, again, I don't think it's anything that's not fixable,
All right, the one thing that stands out to me, though, and it stood out last year, we beat it to death on this show, whether it was last year with me and you or this year with me, you, and Collin. And the thing that stands out here is this. When you go to Duke, it doesn't matter how well you execute. If you're going to shoot 25 free throws and shoot 56%, You're playing at Duke. You're shooting 25 free throws. To win the game, you got to make 20, 21 of those. Now, it doesn't make a difference here, maybe, but when you're missing those free throws in the first half of a 14-point game, and then they're coming down and hitting a three after you miss a free throw, that's a huge swing. And you cannot be, I don't think, a team that can make a deep run in a tournament if you're going to be shooting 50 to 60% from the free throw line.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't have an answer for that, Mike. I wish I really did, but I don't have an answer for. I mean, I don't know how you practice and get better at free throws. I mean, you can shoot 100 a day, and I guess that was the Steve Alford method. He didn't quit until he made 90 out of 100 or something like that every game, and it just came automatic. Every practice came automatic. I don't know, but historically we have not been a good free throw shooting team. It is something that's going to haunt them. It continues to haunt them. Tonight, 2-point field goals, they shoot, 39%, which is a season low.
Yeah, 31% from
5 to 6, 30% 3 points, 56% free throws. Not a good shooting night, but I think a lot of that credit goes to Duke and taking us out of our play and keeping us from doing what we want to do. But I'm more concerned about how passive I think the team's playing right now. And I have not seen a lot of aggression out of this basketball team at all.
My favorite play of the game was when Deron Davis got the personal or the technical foul for actually going down and hitting somebody. I actually liked that.
Well, yeah, he shoved the kid out of bounds. Yeah, I mean, at least get a little ornery.
Yeah, be a little pissed off about
at some point in time, the
happening.
players, it's not a question of whether the fans are embarrassed. Nobody cares about if we're embarrassed as, fans of the basketball team. But the players at some point have to get embarrassed about what's happening to them and take it into their own hands. Now, I get they're young, but I still think this team needs a true on-court leader. I think you need somebody to light a fire under people's ass on the court and to show some emotion in the game. I haven't seen a lot of emotion out of this basketball team. And maybe that's the way Miller coaches his programs. I don't know. I've not been to his practices. I've only seen last season what's going on now. So I'm not going to sit there and question it at this point. I'm just asking. Well, I'm not questioning it in the sense that I'm being negative about it. I'm just saying these are my observations as to what's going on.
So now
they've got a lot of work, but again, I'm just not a proponent of this preseason schedule. Of sitting there and just walking all over, inferior basketball teams and thinking you're making progress, and then you get against a couple of really good teams, and you're nowhere near in the ball game. I mean, they were in the ball game after they tipped off.
Yeah,
I missed the first 5 minutes of the game watching the overtime of Michigan State and Louisville.
The good thing is they did play Duke. Next up, they're playing their first Big Ten game against a 5-1 Northwestern team. Northwestern's a good basketball team, and they're a team that I think when you look at them with Vic Law, Derek Pardon underneath, Ryan Taylor at guard, this is a team that if Indiana is not ready, they could drop that. And I think
from here on out.
We're only at game 8, but the way the Big Ten is shaping up, Indiana needs a win against Northwestern. I think more just for confidence reasons than anything else. I think this game is a huge game for them. Northwestern's a good team. Then they go to Penn State, and Penn State beat number 13 Virginia Tech tonight. So I think when you look at this, these next two games are huge for Indiana, especially the Northwestern game. And I expect them to come out and play well. Devontae Green's back. It seems like everybody's coming back, so maybe they get clicking on all cylinders. But then you throw in that third game and fourth game, these next 4 games are monumental. You got Northwestern at home, at Penn State. You host Louisville, who's extremely good now that they have a basketball coach instead of a pimp as a head coach. And then you've got the game against Butler. You got a couple easy ones after that. Did you like that pimp as a head coach? I think that was a pretty good line. It just popped into my head. The bad thing is when I thought of Rick Pitino, that was the first word that came into my head.
That's why the first thing my wife said, well, who's the coach of Louisville now? I'm like, he's the old Xavier coach. I can't remember his name right now, but he's
Chris
I said, I know Mike's real high on him, and I said they got rid of their pimp coach. Who's bringing prostitutes in for the recruits. So allegedly. So, it has not been proven yet. So, but yeah, I'd say Indiana's in a situation right now where it doesn't give you a lot of confidence going into these next 4 games. They could easily come out of this 0-4 if they're not careful.
Yeah. And
because they could
not
easily
great
do
either.
it.
Yeah, and 2-2
I mean,
is that. I mean, really, I think when you look at this, they've got to win 3 out of 4 here to really be relevant in the Big Ten. Because right now, to me, Michigan, I think, could win a national championship this year. I think they're better than what they were last year. I watched them play Villanova.
Yeah, I haven't seen them play, so I don't. I know they're touted very much.
Dude,
I know
they're only
giving up.
They're only giving up like 47, 48 points a game. You got Michigan State with Izzo. Maryland's undefeated right now. Penn State looks like they're going to be good. Northwestern's good. Purdue's going to be a good team. This is not like Big Ten football. And then I didn't even bring up Iowa and Ohio State. So, I mean, this could be an 8-bid league, but there may be 10 quality teams, so a couple people are going to get left out here. And I want to see fire. I don't see that fire so far.
I don't see the fire either. That's what concerns me the most. I don't see the passion.
And the thing is, though, if you look at Archie Miller and like the Dayton team he took to the Elite Eight, they had fire. I mean, so I don't think this is an Archie problem necessarily, but I think it's kind of systemic of what we see as a society anymore in any sport. And you see it when Deron Davis shoves a guy that's going in for a layup. You know, when you played, that's a foul. It's probably not even a technical. And it was kind of expected back then that nobody gets a layup, nobody dunks the ball on you. And I think it's just systemic. There's very few tough teams anymore. There's very few tough players. But if you can have a tough team, I mean, Gonzaga beat Duke. And the reason they beat Duke was they were tougher. They were a better unit. They had, veteran players that had played 2 years ago in a national championship game, that had made a nice run last year at the end of the season. They were seasoned. They were tough. They were a team. Indiana just had a lot of talented guys. And the problem is Duke had more talented guys. So Indiana got one stud freshman and a couple guys that are pretty good as freshmen. Duke got 3 or 4 stud freshmen. That was the difference in the game, and that was it. I don't think that Mike Krzyzewski outcoached, Archie Miller. I just think he had more bullets in the chamber. And the good thing about that is this, though. If Archie can coach, I think this team will be fine in the end. Just like Duke will be fine in the end. And I don't think if Indiana plays their best game, Duke plays their best game, I don't think Indiana wins the game, but I think Indiana's in the game.
Yeah, Indiana was never in this basketball game.
No.
It's a wake-up. It's a wake-up situation for IU. I had a feeling it was going to be one or the other. Either we were going to come out and we were going to be able to hang. There's no realistic expectations to win the game. I mean, not playing at Cameron where they've won 147 straight non-conference games, and they're arguably one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country. And I think it's unrealistic for anybody to think we would go in there and win this game. But I still held out belief that we could play. But obviously that was proven pretty quickly too that we couldn't even do that. So this team's. But again, I go back to the thing. I don't think there's anything that's not fixable. I put everything back on the fact that they don't have leadership on this basketball team. You talk about, okay, well, Juwan, Yogi alluded to this again. That, well, Juwan's a leader. Well, your leader doesn't sit on the bench for the first half of every important game you played so far this year.
Now, my
to
question
keep yourself in the game, to lead. I mean, how can you lead from the bench? You might as well just be an assistant coach. But you got to keep yourself in the game.
My question to you is 1981 Indiana Hoosiers. You guys lost a lot of games. Almost all of them were close. Actually, all of them were close but one. And the thing I remembered about that season is you guys went to Iowa. And Iowa was a Final Four team the year before, and Iowa handled you guys pretty good. I think it was like 80-65 or 80-63, something like that. I don't know if you remember that game or not. But the thing is this. The thing is this. Outside of a close win in Illinois, you blew everybody out the rest of the year, including the tournament. I think you guys won like your last 5 or 6 regular season games by double digits, except for the at-Illinois game. And then you won every game in the tournament by double digits. What do you remember about Coach Knight in a situation like this? Because I actually remember watching this game, And it was the only game that year that I remember watching and thinking, man, these guys didn't even really come here to compete. What was Bob Knight's take on a situation like that?
Well, the plane ride home was as ugly a plane ride as I could ever remember. I mean, we all got on the plane leaving Iowa and just prayed to God the plane didn't crash on the way home. He wasn't going to kill the pilots or something along the way. I'm being a little facetious there. But, you know, there was a fear, but then we had a different set of problems than this team does. The problem we had in '81 was that Knight and Isaiah were wrestling for control of the team. And I've said this many times on this show, and I say it again, the problem there was Knight had the way he wanted to do things and was a court general. Isaiah had his idea and things he wanted to do, and he was a floor general. And the rest of us were kind of torn between this allegiance of who do we get behind and who do we follow. We had a different set of problems. This team doesn't have a floor general. It's got a court general, but a court general is only good at timeouts, really, and pregame preparation and halftime, things like that. The floor general has got to be the one that dictates the ebb and flow of the game. And so we come back from Iowa, and I remember we called practice at 8:00 the next morning. I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, we got 5 games left. But we all got in early. We all got taped. We all took a jar of Vaseline out of the training room. And we all rubbed our knees and elbows down, figuring, okay, this is going to be loose ball drill.
You had me worried for a second, but all right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's going to be loose ball drills, take the charge drills. And I go back to the same thing. It was one of the greatest coaching moves Coach Knight ever made. He came in and called us onto the huddle, and it's where he used one of these infamous phrases that got him into trouble that Connie Chung repeated on national TV. You know, I'm not going to repeat the phrase.
Yeah, it's fine. Everybody knows. If you don't know, go to YouTube.
Everybody knows the phrase.
And
yeah, you go to YouTube, and you can watch it. But then he walked over to the bench and kind of sat down, and Isaiah took over the basketball team. And we got on the court that day. First off, we were thrilled to death we weren't going to get murdered. And again, it was not a fear of murder. It was just like we just weren't going to go through a hecky darn hard practice. And we lit it up. And from that point forward, we gelled instantly. But it was a great coaching move on Knight's part to let Isaiah take over the team. Right now, this basketball team does not have an Isaiah Thomas. And to sit there and compare a Romeo Langford or anybody like that to an Isaiah Thomas, nobody understands how great a player Isaiah Thomas is and was. And the special abilities that young man had.
Yeah,
and
Isaiah Thomas is one of the probably 3 or 4 best point guards that ever played a game of basketball.
Ever to play the game. Yeah, bar none, ever to play the game. And that's what's sorely lacking on this team. This team has as much talent probably as we had for the most part, but they don't have the cohesiveness that we had. And that's due in large part to not having some leadership and some camaraderie amongst themselves. They look like they're playing like a bunch of individuals. Miller should start to recognize that and just start to identify somebody that's going to spend an adequate amount of time on the court. And it's proven right now that Morgan's not going to be that guy. I don't know if it's because we're putting too much pressure on him defensively, and he's had to do too much defensively by himself. We don't have another big guy that gets in there. Fister's really not an inside player. I mean, he doesn't bang it in there that big. Ron Davis, he's so up and down. He's not really ready to play at that level for extended periods of time. So the inside play is bad. The outside play has gotten real passive all of a sudden. I thought in the early part of the season, our perimeter defense was
I don't
real
even
aggressive.
think it's passive. I think it's more lackadaisical because a lot of the turnovers they made tonight were just that. It was just lackadaisical. And you had the one that stood out to me when Zion Williamson gets the big dunk, when Finney at midcourt just kind of half-assed throws a bounce pass.
Threw it right to him.
Dude grabs it and goes and dunks it. Now, the thing that disturbed me about that is this. If you noticed, as soon as Williamson stole the ball at midcourt, the 2 Hoosiers, Finney, whoever the other dude was, just stood at half court and watched. There was
Watched
no
it. That
effort
wouldn't
to go
happen.
chase that. And the reason I bring that up is against Gonzaga, one of the big plays early in that game was Williamson went it for a dunk and tried to dunk it too hard and slapped it off the back of the rim. And Gonzaga got the ball, goes down and hits a three and goes up by 6 instead of only being up by 1. And
Right.
it just, I know Zion Williamson 99.99% of the time is going to do everything right and dunk that ball. The thing that upset me was this. If I'm Finney or I'm coaching Finney and I see him make that mistake, Finney should be hauling ass trying to somehow catch him because he is embarrassed out of his mind at that point. But he didn't. He just stood at half court and he let it go.
Good point. Yeah, like I said, those are teachable moments, though. It's not a lost cause. I mean, I'm not knocking this basketball
I don't
team
think it's a
anyway,
lost cause. And I think Archie
it's all
Miller.
teachable moment.
Yeah, I think Archie Miller is a good basketball coach. Now he's just got to prove it.
Yeah, very good. He's good for IU. I'm happy he's there. I'm no problem. I'm not ripping on him or the program in any way, shape, or form yet. But I think it's time to get a little tough on these guys and stop treating them like freshmen and treat them like Indiana basketball players.
Yeah, there's too much talent there to play this way.
Yeah, way too much talent.
It's not like last year where you had a few guys that could play, and that was it. This team, I don't even care if Devontae Green's hurt. This team is still good enough. Nobody should embarrass them like that. Now, occasionally you can take something like that, but my biggest worry is I just watched last year. And to me, this looks like last year with more talent, which will get you in the tournament maybe, but it's going to get your ass bounced in the first round and probably in Dayton in the first 4. The only good thing about is I usually cover that, so I could go watch an Indiana game. But so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because we could go on and drone on about this forever. We will be back Saturday after the game. They played Northwestern. I think it's like a noon or 1 o'clock game, Steve. So
1 o'clock start, so we'll be on probably around 3:30. We'll take the show around right after the game.
Yeah.
Jump on live, but don't give up on the team yet. I mean, it's and I'm the one who's out here preaching you don't learn anything from losing, but you do learn something from getting your ass embarrassed.
Okay, so once again, when me and Colin had this argument with you, everything that's been said since then has pointed towards you really agree with us, but you didn't really understand what we were trying to get through to you.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I just don't ever want. I hate losing more than I enjoy winning.
This is the thing, though. Greatness comes.
This wasn't a loss, though. This was an embarrassment.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Greatness comes from losing. Greatness comes from being embarrassed and being able to recover from it.
Okay, let's recover. Fine.
If you look, this is the thing. If Muhammad Ali would have never had Joe Frazier to fight, and he wouldn't have lost that first fight, he wouldn't be considered as great. You know, Joe Louis was considered great because he got beat by Max Schmeling, and he came back and knocked Schmeling out in the first round. NFL teams, the Chicago Bears in 1985, they lose 38-24 to the Miami Dolphins. They didn't lose again that year. So the thing is, you don't have to win every game. You have to win the last game. And
I'll buy the fact that losing is not necessarily a learning opportunity. It's a wake-up call. I'm going to take this as a wake-up call.
But this is the thing. That makes it a learning opportunity because a wake-up call
right, which makes it a learning opportunity. Okay, I stand a little bit corrected. I still don't ever want to admit that I'm going to gain anything from losing a ball game. I'm never going to admit that to you.
But you do. But you know how you admit to me that we were right about that? Because you're talking about you need to play better competition early. And at one point you said, even if you lose those games, it makes you better. You said that.
Well, because, like I said, the problem was Indiana did not have the ability to play at the pace of its opponent. They did not have to be able to play the game at the level. They couldn't get to the level that Duke was playing at.
Yeah, but see, the thing that blew my mind about
this is they've not experienced that level yet.
But this is the thing. It's much easier to slow a game down than it is to speed a game up. I don't know why we would go to Duke and play 100 miles an hour with Duke, why we would play man against a team that doesn't shoot the ball that well. And, I mean, it's just – I loved Bobby Knight. But, you know, the thing about Bobby Knight is this. He would play a zone, and he played it more than people realize. I remember 1987 in the UNLV
our whole defense
semifinal
is predicated
game.
On a zone.
Yeah, the UNLV semifinal game, if you remember – what was the name of that they had a guard who was a point guard. Was it Wade? I think he was number 14, who couldn't shoot the ball to save his life. Indiana didn't even guard him in the game. He was going in, launching shots from 10 feet and shooting air balls because he was just strictly a point guard. And IU won the game that way. And, sometimes instead of just saying, I'm going to play man all the time, you got to be smart and not macho. And just back off of him. You need help against with Zion Williamson. You cannot put anybody, including Juwan Morgan, one-on-one with Zion Williamson and be able to guard him successfully. So make the guys shoot the ball from outside and beat you, because Duke's main thing is we're going to pound the ball into Williamson and you can't stop him. If that's what they want to do, I don't understand why you don't double-team him and try to take it away. And I didn't see much effort there to try to take Zion Williamson away tonight.
No, they let him have his way. And the last word I wrote down on my notes while watching the game was tempo. We did nothing to work on controlling the tempo of the game. We let the game totally be dictated by Duke and played at Duke's pace entirely. And that's where their comfort level is. And you're not going to beat that team when they're playing in their own comfort level.
Especially at Cameron Indoor. Maybe you could do that at Indiana because you go out and hit a couple threes, get a dunk, and the crowd's energy kind of gets behind you. At Duke, you need to slow it down and you need to shut the crowd up. And when they came out that way, I knew this was going to end up being a blowout. And I'm actually surprised it ended up as close as it was.
Well, like I said, we won the second half, but of course we're playing against the 5 kids that haven't played 5 total minutes in their Duke careers.
Yeah, but in their defense, they were probably second-team All-Americans, so they all can play.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, exactly. They were. Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, guys.
All right,
we're going to wrap it up.
It's an embarrassing loss. It's not a relevant loss. It's a learning opportunity. I'm going to give you and Collin that. I take back my words about you don't learn from losing. Hopefully they learn from this. They see what they got to work on, and they get back to working on it between them. Because they've got, between the 1st and the 8th, within basically 7 days, they played 3 pretty good basketball teams. They played Northwestern, Penn State, and Louisville.
And Butler.
Before they get a week off to go back and play Butler. So they got another stretch here where they're going to tire themselves out. They come back now on the 1st, Saturday. Then they play Tuesday, then they play Saturday again against quality basketball teams. 2 Big Ten games they've got to win, to get off to a good start in the Big Ten. They're going to play Louisville, who, like I said, just found a way to beat Michigan State, who's arguably one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the Big Ten, and who will be one of the best teams in the country by the end of the year, given Izzo's.
Well, they're already ranked number 9. They're probably already one of the best teams in the country. But I think the thing you saw with Louisville, outside of a coach that probably doesn't cheat near as much as Rick Pitino, is this. When I watched Louisville tonight, the thing I saw with Louisville, which is why I always wanted Chris Mack to be the coach here, was this is his first year at Louisville, and that team played hard. They played hard.
They played very hard.
Aggressive. They didn't back down.
They played to win.
And that's why, Chris Mack had Xavier in the top 20 almost every year he was there, because it was a hard-nosed team that didn't back down.
Yeah, I watched that game to kind of scout them a little bit because when we had to play them, that team played to win tonight. No doubt about that. So it's a little different mentality than we've got right now. But I think that they don't.
That's why the Louisville game worries me, though, because Louisville's going to come into Indiana and they're going to try to smack Indiana in the mouth. And Indiana is going to have
about themselves. Yeah,
they're going to have to meet aggression with aggression. And if they don't, Louisville will overwhelm them by playing the way Chris Mack teams always play. But
underlyingly, the biggest thing that concerns me the most about this team, I've not seen a lot of aggression out of Indiana this season yet, not against anybody.
But all right, so hopefully Northwestern will solve that. We'll show a little regression. Get a big win. Me, you, and Collin can come back here around 3:30, 3 o'clock, and talk about a Hoosier win. All this will be forgotten. I want to remind everybody, last night we had a special guest, Yogi Ferrell, who's now with the Sacramento Kings. He was on with Steve, myself, Collin Hartman. You can find that on thegruelingtruth.net. Just go in the search bar, punch in Indiana basketball. You'll find that. It was a great interview with Yogi. He was a great guy, and he's a great player. And he was a leader at Indiana. That's what this team needs. Hopefully they will find out in the next week or two. All right, guys. Remember, you can follow us at Grueling Truth. You can follow us at Survive and Advance. You can follow us at
Grueling Hoops.
Yeah, that's why I threw in the Survive and Advance first. I was trying to remember what your Twitter handle was for. Also on Facebook, Indiana Basketball Weekly Show. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.